This should be funny. This should be funny. Nerdrotic, you're the first person I thought of when I heard about this. I was like, I can't wait to see what he's got to say about it. I know some things you make videos about, some things you don't. I'm glad you made a video about this. It should be funny. And there's going to be some funny editing of stuff together, and this is going to be funny. Oh, God. All right, let's get it. Yeah, the power of many bad reviews. Yes. And we are the many. The fans that built Star Wars are the many. The loyal fans that have just wanted material and content that was fundamentally sound in these characters and the lore. But what they want to do, they didn't want to do that, and they found out. Someone wrote in my comments the other day, the power of pennies. Yeah, because they was making pennies off of this.
Greetings, you over 1 million hellions and the 40% who haven't subscribed yet. In a week where Mark Hamill has used Star Wars as a platform to tell a sizable portion of the fandom to fuck off twice.
Go force yourself.
Unless you're MAGA, then you can go force yourself.
And my message to MAGA, go force yourself.
And all this happened within a year that's been pretty bad for Disney Star Wars. Well, things just got worse for them, but much better for humanity. Because I thought I was out, but they keep pulling me back in. The Acolyte's back in the news. Because it turns out it wasn't a very good idea to hire former personal assistant to Harvey Weinstein, Leslie Headland, to head a Star Wars show. And then give the former personal assistant to Harvey Weinstein, Leslie Headland, $180 million to actually make it. Turns out it probably wasn't a good idea to attack the fans before the show even came out. And I would say at the very least it was ill-advised to let anybody creatively involved with this show, especially the adult pretenders, to talk to anybody at all.
Yes.
Although I do appreciate their honesty because it was indeed the gayest Star Wars ever made.
It's pretty gay, let's be honest.
And it turns out the most ill-advisable thing of all was actually releasing the show. And then the world got to see former personal assistant to Harvey Weinstein, Leslie Headland, take George Lucas's lore on 8 separate trips to Harvey's private suite, where it became the living embodiment of the South Park meme.
Put another kidnapper's women in it, make it more today.
Fires in space, communist lesbian space witches, conceiving identical twins played by the same actress exactly the same way, more lesbians in space, inappropriate Jedi-Padawan relations, Jedi-abetes, and a bad guy straight out of the worst kind of fan fiction. Watching Disney Star Wars commit Mary suicide was glorious, because I got some good news and I got some bad news. We'll start with the bad news, because I feel a great disturbance in the Force, as if millions of YouTubers suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced.
Pronouns!
I fear something terrible has happened, and it has. The Acolyte's been canceled. Then there's the good news. The Acolyte's been canceled. This crime against imagination that committed creative genocide being cut down is a massive win for the fandom, for all things good, and humanity. Her deadline, exclusive, The Acolyte canceled. No Season 2 for D+'s Disney Star Wars series. And no, there is no Star Wars that died in 2012. There's only Disney Star Wars. The story of The Acolyte...
Yeah, I'm going to start calling it Disney Star Wars, too. I was watching something else today, and I was just like, I noticed everyone calls it Disney Star Wars because it's a different Star Wars than what we grew up with. Disney Star Wars. Different.
Will not continue, with Lucasfilm opting not to proceed with the second season of the Disney Star Wars offshoot starring Amandla Stenberg, sources tell Deadline. Word of the decision comes more than a month after the 8-episode first and last season of the series from creator, director, executive producer, showrunner, and former personal assistant to Harvey Weinstein, Leslie Headland, wrapped its run on D+. I have to give Deadline credit on this one. They're being far more realistic about the canceling of The Acolyte, far more than their comrades in the Access media who will be coping for the next week. The news is not entirely surprising. Well, it is and it isn't. In a normal reality, of course this show would be canceled canceled, but we don't live in that world.
That's right.
Normally, D Plus would give this.
We live in clown world now, so,
Season 2, and God, I was hoping it would, but unfortunately, #renew the Acolyte failed. The Acolyte did okay with critics with 78% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's more than okay. Don't try to absolve yourself from this.
And everyone has the sneaking suspicion that the majority of them were paid.
Divided Star Wars fans, which reflected in its overall viewership. Might want to check your math on that one, because Divided is an 18% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, a 4.1% score on IMDb, and a 3.9% user.
Yes, it's just divided in a different way. It's a different ratio, so to speak.
Score on Metacritic. All your trailers getting ratioed and clips from the actual show showing up on X, Twitter, and getting roasted to the tune of millions of impressions. If by divided you mean overwhelming majority hated it,
yes.
Driven by the interest into this venerable franchise, which is a testament to what George Lucas created, because Disney Star Wars has been crap for a decade, The Acolyte got off to a strong start when it launched June 4th, with 2 episodes generating 4.8 million views in its first day on the streamer, to rank as the biggest series premiere on D Plus this year.
Yeah, that's like saying you're the fastest person, people that are 400 pounds. People that are 400 pounds can't move that fast unless they're super huge hulks, and there's not too many of them on this planet. You get the point I'm trying to think of right now. What was the only thing released? Echo? Like, come on now, stop.
Most of them being YouTubers, but The Acolyte could not sustain the momentum, dropping out of the top 10 in week 3 and staying off before returning to number 10 after the release of the finale, 335 million minutes viewed, believed to be the lowest for a Disney Star Wars series finale ever. You know, maybe that diss track directed at Star Wars fans from a manless Stenberg probably wasn't a very good idea either. That inevitable cope I was speaking about with the Access Media has already started with Variety. The Acolyte is dead. Ah, that sounds great, doesn't it? Disney Star Wars series won't return for season 2. While Deadline said it wasn't a surprise The Acolyte got canceled, Variety says initially it was a shock. This comes at once as a shock, given how much the season 1 finale ended on a cliffhanger and teased several plot lines for
Variety, stop! That is not a shock. Stop it.
A season 2. To be fair, it is a bit of a shock that Disney canceled a show led by a gay woman starring a non-binary person of color. And not so much of a surprise given the widely opposing reception from the fans and the less than robust viewership that appeared to drop.
I think I said something else. Like, I'm surprised, but not surprised at the same time. Like, because you know the times we're living in. So it's like, you actually expect them to push forward, but you know, I expected them to push forward considering the rumors are that, they're changing how they're going to do Marvel, but Lucasfilm is going to stay the same. So why didn't they continue? Are they now like, look, we want to do all this diversity stuff, but look, we can't continue losing all this money. So
off after the series premiere in June.
I wonder what their stock price is right now.
Sorry, you misspelled fan. Loved how the show challenged the traditional perception.
Disney stock price. 89.74.
Of the Jedi as infallible and wholly virtuous. Other fans, however, the ones who are correct, felt that those creative choices were antithetical to the good versus evil nature of Star Wars storytelling, and strongly objected to the show's expansion, you misspelled desecration, of the mythology of the Force. And you know it couldn't be an Access Media article without them insinuating that it's your fault. The Acolyte was also review bombed, an insidious practice most often employed as a form of digital protest against inclusive casts centered around actors of color and LGBTQ, whereas the plus bigot characters. Despite these objections, The Acolyte also captured a great deal of positive reactions, especially surrounding the reveal of Manny Jacinto, a scene in which Jacinto disrobes along a rocky coastline as a tactic to seduce Osha to the dark side, garnered a great deal of attention, spawning legions of thirst posts on social media, and so ends the saga of the Acolyte. A failure so epic, it was too big for Disney to ignore, yet they will ignore all the lessons that they could look.
It's so weird how they thought they could make movies and series, and this is like a lot of these companies, for the extreme minority of our population, and they thought it was going to work.
Learn from this disaster, including but not limited to thirst posts don't equal views. You can't lie yourself into a success, even if it's with the help of your comrades in the access media.
Nope.
Remember this one? All the backlash aside, The Acolyte is actually a Star Wars success story, despite the naysayers. The Acolyte...
Well, since it's a success story, why wasn't it renewed for a second season?
It's pulling in viewers faster than the Millennium Falcon on a Kessel Run. Or this from Wired, The Acolyte is the long-awaited death of review bombing. Well, maybe all the money Disney wasted on the positive review bombing. And my personal favorite from Collider, The Acolyte continues to dominate streaming charts.
Ironic.
And for the crowd who says we shouldn't talk about any of this stuff or cover it or review it because it only helps, well, I give you just the latest but possibly most shining example of why that isn't true. Because The Acolyte's been canceled. But it wasn't canceled because of critics or YouTubers. It was canceled because of the fans. They spoke up. Because Disney Star Wars, once again, betrayed everything about George Lucas's Star Wars. They prioritized the message over character and good storytelling. And that fails every single time. Admittedly, it's a bummer we're not going to get any more YouTube videos about this show because they were fantastic. But in the...
Well, I know, while that was fun, I am personally glad because I'm at a point now to where I do not even want to go to see these movies or watch the series to review them. I am exhausted mentally. So I'm done. You know what I mean? I still have not finished Batman Caped Crusader. Still haven't.
The end, it's a win for the fandom. Take your victory lap. You earned it.
nerdrotic.com.
Get over to the Nerdrotic and subscribe. Tell them Tyrone Magnus sent you. Post your comments down below. Let me know what you think of this news. 10 million subscribers. Woo!